Welcome to the Troy Kearns podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Michael Ohgigian. I met Michael about 15 years ago when I first started selling real estate, and Michael is a good friend of mine. I've come to know him. He's an investor. He's flipped hundreds and hundreds of properties. If you haven't checked out our video on YouTube about his huge SBA loan, he's a wealth of knowledge if you're looking to get into real estate investing, and I'm happy to have him on the show. Thanks for coming in today, Michael.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
Yeah, so this, as you know, when we got I was telling you before the show, we got a lot of hate on the Korean robot and stuff like that in our video, and that whole video symbolizes like the climax of your real estate career, in my opinion, because we met. If we want to go back, how we met, I was a brand new agent selling properties for Gavish Real Estate, and you were working with Lana Ober. And you knew that I had all the properties.
That's right. Because you go to the source.
Go to the source. And so you basically worked with Lana, and she was always like, hey, you need to meet my investor client. Hey, you need to meet. And I was so just immersed in trying to get as many listings as possible that I couldn't care less about flipping or investing in real estate at that point in time. And at that point in time, you were building back, right?
Oh, yeah. I had lost my ass probably in 2007. By the end of 2007, I had lost, millions of dollars in 6 months. It had gone from I'm doing flips, and instead of making, 50 grand on it, as I estimated, it was like catching a falling knife. So the market's crashing, and you're just watching, and you're lowering the prices on your houses, and you're saying, wait, I'm supposed to make, 50 grand. Well, maybe I'll just make 20 or, and then you're like, oh, I just need to break even. Right. And then you're like, hey, this is that property. I could have sold it and at least broke even or made money. Now I'm losing money. How much am I going to lose?
Right. So when you're losing this money at that point in time, this is in 2000 and what?
Probably 2000. I could see the writing on the wall in 2007. I'm losing money in 2007. Yeah.
Okay, so prior to 2007, how long had you been flipping real estate?
I was flipping since probably 2001. So I was buying and selling from 2001.
So you're 20 years actively flipping properties in real estate in Las Vegas.
That's right.
You'd been doing it successfully for 6 years. And
with my brother.
With your brother.
Until we separated in about 2005.
So you separated from your brother in 2005. You went out on your own.
Yep.
And what were the mistakes that you made that allowed, besides the economy crashing, which we obviously know happened, but there was mistakes that you made that you learned from that situation, and what were they?
I took more risks. So my brother was a much more conservative investor. I was, hey, let it hang out. Let's, you see deals, you buy them. You can make money, you buy them. Right. So I was leveraging properties, and I kept a bunch of rentals. They had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity. You're like, wow, I have $200,000 equity in, but I'm losing money. I have a cash flow loss every single month. From looking back now, you're like, that's not sustainable. Who would ever think that's a good idea? And you're like, I got $200,000 in equity on paper.
Right. So you were counting your upside versus your cash flow.
Correct. So not a good situation.
Same way I started. So you were speculating on the sell is, and you're like, I can sustain this loss for however long because the market's going up in value.
And I have write-offs. I'm still flaking money flipping houses. It's okay if I lose money on my rentals. Jeez, I got $2 million sitting in equity right there. No problem.
I'll just sell if I need it.
That's right. No problem.
So then the market just completely takes a dump.
Yep.
How many houses did you have as rentals at that point in time?
I probably had, 12, something like that, 10, 12, 15, somewhere in those areas if I really look.
So 12 to 15 rentals, they're all losing money every month.
I think maybe there's one or two that was making money, but most of them were losing money.
So we have a very similar story. It sounds like you just had more of them. I had two, and two I was able to hang on to and sweat out the market. So you had 12 or 15, whatever it was, plus you had a bunch of flips going on.
Yep.
How did you lose all the houses?
One of my attorneys, we modified about 3 of them.
Okay.
Took whatever I was in default on, threw that on the back. They lowered the interest rates down to like 3.5%. and I made payments on them for 10 years. I think I still have some. I have probably 3 or 4 of them, right? 3 of them right now, probably. I just sold one of them not very long ago, but that was a big thing because I collected my rents because the banks would not modify your loan unless you were in default. Right. So if you're in default, then we'll modify your loan. If you're current, we're not going to modify your loan. We have no incentive. So I was in default on some, and the banks, we were in stage 3 of negotiation with the bank. I was, in the process of selling off, some of them selling them, and then they're like, oh, we're in phase 3 of negotiation with the bank. They turn around and foreclose on it, and I'm like, I have no money to fight them.
Right.
Even though they gave me stuff in writing, we are, we're gonna accept the cash offer, get it modified, and you won't screw your credit up. I'm like, okay.
So you're doing your best to try to work with these guys.
And they could care less. There are 2 different departments. One's the foreclosure department, one's the modification.
Lost mid.
That's right. And they could care less. You're just one little fish. They don't care. They can lie to you all
They've got insurance on the whole situation. When they foreclose, they get to apply for that mortgage insurance that you've been paying for. There's no incentive for them to work with you whatsoever.
They don't care. So they don't care at all. So that's why I had my attorney involved in some of them. And when the attorney was involved, we got, I guess, 3 or 4 modified. And, I kept those forever. You go from, losing money to cash flowing. Hey, I'll keep that even if it's for 40 years. 40 years of cash flowing. They modified some of the loans from like 25 to 40 years. They lowered your interest rates. So some of the banks did work with you, and that was a big help.
Yeah, so some of the banks worked with you. The other ones, you ended up letting those properties go into foreclosure.
I got either 2 or 3 foreclosures in my personal name.
Right.
And I probably got 3 short sales. Even my primary residence, it went from, I paid $770 cash, $770 bare floors on a golf course in the Northwest. And after Silverstone Ranch.
Oh, good. Well, good thing you don't own that one anymore, anyways.
I know. Since they closed the golf course down, real good thing.
Right, exactly.
But I had a 1/4 acre, big, huge, awesome, nice house right on the golf course, and I had it fall at escrow about 7 times, I believe it was. I won probably $10,000 in earnest money taking these people to court that just pulled out for whatever reason.
Right.
But, it didn't help my situation. I mean, I'm trying to short sale this and I couldn't. And then they're like, oh, we're going to foreclose on it. I'm like, hell, you're going to foreclose on it. My attorney is going to sue you until we get it short sold. Yeah. And so we held it up until it got short sold. And I think I short sold it for $340. And I was in at 770 bare floors, probably have another 100,000, so I'm in at 870.
And that's cash?
It was 20. I put 20% down and then 100,000 out of my pocket in upgrades. And
so you're losing money hand over fist.
Hand over fist.
So obviously it's not our successes that teach us stuff. It's our failures that teach us. And now, obviously, from the video that you're doing right now with the $10 million building, like, you reinvented yourself. And so let's talk about how that happened. So you learned your lessons. What lessons did you learn during that situation?
I learned about multiple streams of income. That was probably the biggest thing. All your eggs in real estate in one basket, and you're saying, oh, real estate's it goes up forever. That's what I was always taught. My dad had rental properties. Right. Real estate always goes up. It never goes down. That's what the story everyone tells you. Goes up and up and up. And, when that's your belief, that's what you've always learned. I mean, we went to courses. I mean, we took a Ron LeGrand course probably in 01.
Oh, Florida.
The famous Ron LeGrand.
Land trusts.
I love cat urine. The smell of cat urine. He loves it. So Ron, we did a course with Ron LeGrand, it was $5,000, a lot of money at the time.
Right.
That was a big investment. And, 95% of the people probably don't do anything with it.
Right.
It all comes down to doing what, you can be successful at everything. Just pick and choose what you want to be successful at.
So you got out of that business pretty much entirely. You started a new business, the pita bread. You bought a pita bread company.
My last $150,000, I just said, oh, I keep losing 50 grand or 100,000 on each house. I mean, what am I going to do? So I bought a pita bread company with my partner.
And
it was a friend of mine.
So your partner's a friend of yours. This is the guy from Brazil. What's his name again?
Diego.
So you bought a pita bread company. What year did you buy that company in?
We bought in October 07.
So October of 07, which if you guys don't know, was pretty much the height of the actual market. It was the height of the bubble in terms of the actual height of the price point. Like it wasn't 05, it wasn't 06, it was actually 07. And the fall was 2012. The actual bottom of the market was in 2012. So you start this pita bread company with Diego, a good buddy of yours. And then at what point in time do you get back into real estate investing?
Let me tell you about what happened to the pita bread company.
First, yeah, please.
So we basically bought it it's a great deal. It's throwing off cash. It sounds like a great business investment. You can just put the right management in and grow the company and do great. But the first 6 months, we probably lost 50% of the business because the economy in Vegas totally tanked. Right. Real estate, you can see coming down. If you're flipping houses and selling houses, you can see it start to decline. Right. Everyone else is thinking it's still going great, but you can see what the writing on the wall before these other people.
Because the sales cycle of real estate, which is it takes at best 90 days, right? If you got a perfect scenario is 90 days, and then you're like, all right, that one just sold for less. So if that one's selling for less, the next one that comes up is going to sell for less than that, which means that
you start seeing, and you're like, hey, that's why I got my other business, because I'm like, I can't make money in real estate. I don't know what to do. What have I done? I was supposed to go to law school. Was enrolled in law school, and I said, I'm going to start a business over the summer with my brother, and that's how I became a real estate investor. I'm like, there's a lot of lawyers out there, but we created Las Vegas Home Buyers was the one we created that summer. That was our company, Las Vegas Home Buyers.
So Las Vegas Home Buyers, you created with your brother. You go into the pita bread. You buy a pita bread company once you go out on your own. Now, does your brother get his butt kicked too?
He got his butt kicked, but he was, he was more conservative, so it wasn't as leveraged as I was.
Okay.
He was still, he was doing a few houses. I was doing 20, 30. I'm like, I'm going to make $1 million. I'm 26 or 27. I'm going to make $1 million this year. I'm like, yeah. And then I probably lost $2 million.
Well, sometimes you don't always get what you want the first time around. So we've obviously seen the video about the pita bread. If you guys haven't checked it out, make sure you go check it out. It's, by the time this podcast airs, it'll be up there. It's already up there. But if you haven't checked out the video, go to our YouTube channel. Check out the video that we did. Michael, actually, we'll get into the specifics in just a second, but he turned that $150,000 pita bread company into a multi-million-dollar company, that services company like Whole Foods, Coffee Bean, Costco. What else? Who else we got?
We sell to, I guess, people that you might not hear about, but like Tony's Fine Foods that service lots of markets.
What's the company do in gross revenue?
Our company's probably did 18 million.
So $18 million in gross revenue, but probably the thing that excites you more than anything is the real estate that you bought.
The real estate is the best, yes.
So coming from pretty much being like, I'm the real estate guy, I'm going to do everything, then losing everything, then buying a pita bread business and building that to an $18 million company, and then buying how big is the square footage of that lot?
It's about 100. It's probably 9-10 acres, and it's about 100,000 square foot.
So I would consider that a great deal. $100 a foot. You got 10
acres.
a
phenomenal deal.
You got a phenomenal deal. You put 10% down on it. You got cost segregation, so which means you basically can, for those who don't know, you can defer your taxes.
Of course.
Probably forever, if the laws don't change. But those could change as well. And so you came from doing that, but you still flip houses.
Oh yeah. So I flipped. I built money up. I just ran into problems about getting money. So if you have zero credit, 500 or so is my score after I got 2 or 3 foreclosures. You have zero credit. Where are you going to get money? Even if the best deals on the table, no one had money then. And no one was going to loan you money. I was lucky enough I had a real estate lender. He was a friend of mine. He loaned me money at 14% interest. But the big thing was it had no points. So no points at 14%. If I could turn around and flip a house in
But
2
we haven't
months,
put any money in?
he would do the 100%.
So that's, if you're paying 14%,
I would do repairs out of my pocket. He would loan the 100% on the property.
Right. So you'd finance the repairs, and that was just your way to get back into the game. You knew that you had to pay.
One way or another, you're going to pay. So if you don't have your own money, you don't have friends or family that have money, the real estate market's in the toilet. I had properties I was picking up for 40 grand, putting in like 10 and selling them for 80. And those I couldn't do those. Some of them I did a bunch, kept a bunch as rentals, but yeah. I had some that I couldn't buy, and I knew that I was going to make 30 grand profit on in a really bad market, and I knew I'd make it, but I couldn't get the money together to actually do the flip.
Right, because your credit had been decimated,
and there's no one,
and nobody's lending.
No
money.
one was lending on anything. If you were lucky if you could get money at the 14%. If I'm like, I don't have enough money the 10 grand to do the repairs. I didn't have the 10 grand to do the repairs. I could get the loan probably, but I couldn't repair the property.
You could only do so many.
That's right.
You could only do a couple at a time.
That's
one
right.
At a time.
So you're doing them one at a time, and then 2 at a time, and then you get your money and you do another one or another 2. But my thing was keeping them because I started doing the numbers.
Right.
I'm like, hey, I had one. I bought on a street called Parkdale.
Okay, I know that
street. 3024 Parkdale, and I paid 40 grand for the house. Probably bought it from you.
Probably. It sounds familiar.
And I had put 10 grand in, so I'm in at 50 grand on a 4-bedroom, 1,500 square foot house. I'm in it, and I'm like, jeez. I go to sell it for 80, and the appraisal doesn't come in. I'm like, screw this. The appraisal doesn't come in. I can't appraise this house for 80 grand, remodeled, granite, and all that good stuff, tile and granite. So I sat there, and I'm like, what am I going to do? And one of my friends was doing Section 8 rentals, and he said, hey, your tenants might not be paying much, but my tenants, government subsidized, they're paying a heck of a lot of money. And he introduced me to that, and and I got basically $1,500 a month for an $80,000 property. So you start doing the math.
Well, how much were you into the property for?
I'm in at 50.
You're in at 50, so it's a $50,000.
$50,000 house, and you're getting 18 grand a year.
Great investment.
Great investment. You're paying it off in 2.5 years, and after that, you're cash flowing the hell out of it.
Right, and plus appreciation.
I'll go over the numbers of what they are now. So
you still own this one.
I still own it.
You're welcome. I want a piece of the action. If I sold you that deal, we're going to go back.
For the last, I think that was probably about 2012 or so. So for the last 9 years, it would have gone up from 50,000. It's probably worth 275, 260 to 280.
280 plus it's paid for itself. How many times?
It's probably paid for itself at least 4 times.
4 times. How many tenants have you had in there?
I've had probably 3 or 4. 3.
So couple tenants every couple of years, a tenant every couple of years.
Yep.
And you're getting, how much rent are you getting on it right now?
I get only like 16 something. I'm trying to bump it up to what market is. And for Section 8, it's probably about 19 for Section 8 market.
Right. And again, that investment was $50,000.
$50,000 investment.
And you can pull cash out of it if you need it.
I already did.
Pulled cash out.
All my cash is probably double the cash I put in is out and already in other investments. And I made, 7 to 10 times on my money. So
where is your real estate career and your, I guess, what's the best way of saying Avatar Foods career? What would you call that business?
I would, the food business, we do all the salads on the West Coast for Whole Foods. We co-pack for all kinds of African food companies and cookie dough in pints. They sell at Walmart and people sell at Target, but we also produce our own cookies and we produce our own salads and all the food at Coffee Bean and Pete's Coffee. That's all ours.
So chances are if you've been on the West Coast and you've eaten at Pete's Coffee, you've probably had some of your food.
Yep.
If somebody wants to reach out to you, they've got a business, they're looking to get into co-packing, how would they get a hold of you?
It's Michael at Avatar Natural Foods is my email, and usually take emails is the best way. So
like we just were looking at, we got on that view, you actually, one of the cool things about your company that I think that you understood, you kind of do stuff this similar that I do is that you look at a cost and try to eliminate it up front right away so that you can capitalize it on the future. And one of the things that you pointed out in that video was your Korean palletizing robot.
That's right.
And we got a lot of hate because people were like, oh, well, you're getting rid of people's jobs. Let's talk about the type of people who break down cardboard boxes for a living.
At our place, we probably pay people $12 an hour. They break down cardboard boxes. They throw them into compactor and it gets recycled. But how many right now when the government we already had a talk with our congresswoman about paying people money not to work. We ran into a situation we couldn't hire employees.
Right. Big problem.
Couldn't hire employees. No one wants to work. They're taking our tax money and paying people to stay home and not work. And you're like, this is not going to work. So we weren't yelling, but we were talking to Susie Lee, and she was like very receptive. She's like, hey, I'll make sure I get back and start, making sure this doesn't happen. I mean, we want jobs. I don't care if you vote Democrat or Republican, everyone wants jobs.
Right.
In the end, we want the Vegas economy to do well. We all do.
We want the U.S. economy to do well.
That's right.
And if people are sitting there getting free money,
just you don't want to work. Why would you work for $215 an hour if you can make $15 to $20 sitting at home on your butt? You're going to just say, hey, I'll take the free money.
right.
So, but that doesn't help you mentally. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the economy. It doesn't help your neighbor. The people eventually who are paying don't want to pay anymore. They can say, why would I work any harder?
Yeah,
I'm working plenty hard.
Yeah, all the people who are paying all those taxes end up leaving the economy, going to a different country, going to a different place, going to a different state, and say, we're not going to pay for this no more.
Yep. So, but with the robot, it saves. I can pay the guy who runs the robot. He still sets up the pallets. He sets up the robot. Now, instead of making, $12 an hour, probably makes 15 because he's, he's a technician pretty much. He's he does twice as much work as he did before. And the robot saves money on all the material costs, the film. The robot can pull it tighter. The robot does a perfect job. The robot wraps it twice around to whatever height you want. And that helps a lot. I mean, he can set a pallet up. He can be working while the robot's working. So he's basically doing twice as much work in the same amount of time, which makes him a much more valuable person, which he can get paid more.
Right. And also the other thing is, it's just common sense. We looked at a lot of the equipment that you have in there. You've got dishwashers that can wash the whole MGM grand. And, if you're trying to make money selling food, the faster you can turn your dishes around, the more food that you can cook.
That's right.
And if you've got what we would argue is a very low skill, and I know that because I started at Red Ramen as a DMO, dish machine operator, okay, literally, that's a very low skilled job. And literally, you're not going to have people scrub it by hand. You're going to have them pre-rinse it, and it's going to go through a machine that probably meets higher standards than any human being can do. And that's the way of the world. And in fact, if we go back a little bit, we used to have the Industrial Revolution, but now all of our stuff is coming from China. So the fact that somebody would hate on you for bringing jobs to our market and bringing innovation to our market really surprises the hell out of me. But
we brought 175 jobs to Henderson. So we brought about 50 jobs to Henderson and hired another 125. So we have 175 more jobs. Michelle Romero, thank you.
Who's Michelle Romero?
She's running for governor.
Oh, is she?
I'm not governor, mayor of Henderson. So
Mayor
she's a councilwoman. And she helped us, and the economic development helped us. They said, hey, you come to Henderson, we're going to treat you good. We'll help expedite some of your permits. We'll help with whatever you need. I mean, we went to a very economically depressed area.
So that's great. So I'm glad you went down that the rabbit hole there a little bit. So would you find that it's very important to be able to work with the city?
Of course, super important.
Right, like when you have the opposite, which I'm sure you've had before, where they don't want to work with you, where
Yep.
like code enforcement or it's just a pain in the butt. They can make your life a living mess. But when they want to work with you and they see what the value that you bring, they can also roll out the red carpet.
They do. They say, hey, if you have any problems, call this person or that person, or hey, this isn't getting done, or I need help. they help you.
Or I've got illegal dumping, or can you guys get somebody to...
Police are out at my property every week for illegal dumping.
Right.
I just put a deposit down on 2 opening gates.
I got to show you my dumpster, actually, like I told you I was going to show you after the show. As you guys know, if you haven't been following us, make sure you follow, make sure you subscribe, make sure you go to our Instagram. Michael, do you have any socials?
Very minimal. I'm pretty behind the times in my Facebook and LinkedIn. I think that's about it. I think I have other accounts, but I don't really know how to use them very well.
Oh yeah, I'm with you on that. I was anti-social media until I went all in on social media. Okay, so for right now, it's Michael at Avatar Foods.
Avatar Natural Foods.
At Michael at avatarnaturalfoods.com. So tell me about your family life. We've gone hiking. You're a pretty good athlete, I would say. Like, we've done the mountain a couple times.
Yep.
We're supposed to do. Are you gonna do it tomorrow with me?
It's not too cold now.
Let's go.
Let's
go tomorrow morning. Okay. So Michael's in really good shape. You're 45 years old. You keep yourself pretty active. Tell me about kind of like what your routine is. What kind of things you do in the morning? I know you work really hard.
I do CrossFit with some friends in town. I do that. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. I go mountain biking on Sunday morning early by 7 or 6 in the summer when it's hot. So I do those, and I try and squeeze the gym I've been noticing my arms are getting smaller from doing cardio and CrossFit instead of actual lifting weights. So I try and squeeze that in and have a good time with it. But I hike, I fish, I raft.
You're also a big hunter, right?
I hunt too.
Did you go hunting just recently?
I took my 12-year-old. We got 2.
That's Lucas?
And one of my buddies. Yeah, one of my buddies and my 12-year-old son, and we got 3 antelope in one day. And
where was that at?
It was great. Up near Battle Mountain. I didn't even know where that is until, I got a tag in the area. And then it's between Austin and Battle Mountain.
That's up way north Nevada.
Yep. Somewhere past Tonopah, and it's hard to even say.
So 3 antelope. So how much meat was that?
They're not very big. They're like 100 pounds a piece. So.
Okay.
And they're not huge, but once you skin them and gut them, and they make steaks and burgers out of them.
That's good.
It's so delicious. It's a good.
Do you have any extra meat?
I'll give you some. Don't
I'd love it.
It was eating alfalfa, so they're like well fed.
Well, they say Joe Rogan talks about that all the time, and so does Cam Hanes. They're like, the healthiest animal for you to eat is an elk, because the elk is at the top of the food chain. It gets away from everything, right? And if you can eat an elk, it's been
You know where it came from.
Yeah.
There's no E. coli. There's no. You hear about the meat recall, and you're like, that had E. coli or had some kind of other animal that wasn't a cow, and you're like, oh, that's great.
Right.
And with the meat, if you buy a whole cow, I bought a whole bison before when I didn't get any tags hunting, or I go hunting with my brother, friends.
So you just eat your own meat, basically?
Yeah, my wife likes going to Costco and buying some steaks now and then, but yeah, I prefer to eat stuff I knew where it came from. It's much better for your health. I mean, it's a very low fat, grass-fed, organic type of meat that's super healthy. I mean, it tastes great too.
So as you know, I got a place I'm building in Kansas City right now. It's on 10 acres, and one of my plans is to have some animals on there. And I was going to put lamb, because I've heard it's, number one, it's easy to maintain.
Yep.
And you can just take it to the butcher, and you don't even have to kill it. You just take it to the butcher. They take care of everything for you. And, unless I'm hunting, I'm not going to get some sort of an enjoyment of shooting an animal that's been probably a pet of ours, but we would want to eat it because it's a good producing, healthy animal that's going to make
my mom, when I lived in Montana, my mom bought 3 lambs, and then we raised them, and, when they're crapping on the porch, you say, hey, I think I'm going to eat this one.
So that's how you determine who goes first.
That's right.
Whoever craps on the porch first, your days are numbered, okay? So, all right. So tell me a little bit about your family and stuff. Your wife is from
Brazil.
She's from Brazil. Your partner's from Brazil. What's up with that?
My wife went in with one of her friends from Brazil to a cheesecake, like a little pastry shop over at Sahara and Fort Apache. I don't even know what it was back then, but it was a little pastry. I think it's a coffee shop now, and
right.
Some kind of super good banana cheesecake. And my wife's like, oh, my husband, he does real estate, but you want to come meet him. It's good for him to meet new people. And so she introduced me to my friend who's currently my partner, and she said, hey, we hit it off, and we started hiking a lot and doing other fun stuff, rock climbing and hiking, and became friends. And you say, hey, you want to always work with people who are your friends.
Right.
You surround yourself with people who work hard, are smart, are financially well off. They know what they're doing. They make money. These are the people you surround yourself with.
Your network is your net worth.
That's right.
Right, because you hang around. If you're wondering, like, oh man, all these guys, and I could tell you, sometimes you just got to cut friends off.
It's not necessarily they're not giving anything, but they're people who take more than they give. I mean, I try and make sure the people around me make money and do well. It's a big thing. I have no problem sharing the wealth. Everyone needs to make money and do well, and you'd much rather be building yourself up with the people you like and are your friends.
Right. You want to help people. If you're helping enough people get to where they want to get, you're going to get to where you want to get. And if you're sharing knowledge, you're sharing information. In fact, if you guys like what Michael's sharing, make sure you give us a 5-star review. Make sure you share this video with a friend, and make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you get started and investing in real estate or investing in something. Let's talk about that. I want to go back to where you're at now. How many properties are you flipping a year right now?
It's embarrassing. Maybe I did 5 last year.
5 last year.
I sold I sold lots of properties, but more of them were ones I had kept. So maybe I kept I paid $200,000 for a property. It had a duplex. It had 2 houses and a commercial garage on the same acre off of Las Vegas Boulevard.
I remember that one.
And I paid $200 for it. And I had to pull permits. Took a long time. I probably put in like $100,000 getting the duplexes occupied, finishing up the second house. So because one was already occupied, and then the commercial garage, I put a bathroom in there, and some guy rents it out for cabinets and whatnot. But I needed to come up with some more money to put as a down payment on my shopping center. So it basically was 5 duplex, so 5 or 6 units.
We did the one in Pahrump.
We did the one in Pahrump, but that was 5 or 6 units, and I sold that for $650, and I paid $200 and probably $100 into it on top of that. But it took a while.
Good profit there.
But it was cash flowing, $5,500, $6,000 a month, which is awesome.
But $300,000 on the upside, real quick, you could put that to work.
That's right.
Much faster.
That's right. The lower quality properties cash flow a lot better. But the problem with them, there's a lot more work a lot of times.
Right. It's not for everybody, for sure.
No.
You have to be a seasoned investor.
That's right.
You and I are not afraid of the same type. We just walked a property today that's like covered in feces and cat crap and everything like that. And I'm like, this is a cosmetic fixer-upper.
Hey, that's awesome.
After we get this stuff out of here.
That's right. In the worst case scenario, you'll be bleaching and kills in the floor. That'll be it.
Oh no, this one's pretty bad.
No, after you remove all the flooring, you kills and bleach it.
Oh, 100%. But, with that stuff, it never bothers me. None of that stuff ever bothers me. Our audience is just like you are. They're between the ages of 18 to 45 years old. Most of them we got about 40% female, 60% male, and they're people who are trying to get ahead in life right now, and they're uncertain. They don't know where to start. One of the biggest questions I get is like, how do I start? I said, you just have to start. Like, I can't tell you where to start. I can't tell you what to start. I can give you a suggestion, but what would you tell a younger version of yourself today? The 26-year-old guy who's buying everything. What would you tell him to be successful right now?
Don't be afraid to take risks.
Right.
If you don't take risks, you won't ever succeed, and you'll just live a normal life, like working 9 to 5, and that will be your existence. If you take risks, there's an opportunity, and you see opportunity, and you have to be willing to reach out and grab it. You're going to have to get out of your comfort zone. You're going to have to do things you're not comfortable doing.
Like, was that uncomfortable when you lost all those houses?
It was I used to have a full head of hair. And no white hair either. Till you lose it all, and you're like, it's a big realization, and you say, hey, You just got to pick yourself back up and do it again. I can do it again.
Right.
And I did it.
But mentally, for a while there, you were in a funk, I'm sure.
Of course, years, probably 5 years.
5 years you're in a funk, but now you're back at it again, and you've learned your mistakes.
I learned tons of mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes.
Right.
It's just how you react to your mistakes. Do you get back up, dust yourself off, get back out there to kick some ass, or you just, oh, woe is me? And I know people who lost $60 million and they went from killing it, as in real estate investing, to moving in with mom and dad when the market crashed.
And what happened with them?
I never heard from them again.
Right.
They didn't get back up and rebuild their empire.
Yeah.
They just they got depressed and that was it. And
it's not the successes one after another. It's the failures and how people rebound from their failures. We're both sitting here today and we both started with things going wrong.
Of course.
Like I invested, had no success in the beginning, completely plummeted, had to move my whole family. I moved myself down to Vegas just because of the properties that I owned were losing $2,500 a month, and I'm watching the whole economy crash just like you, and I'm realizing I made bad investments, and what am I
The
gonna
funniest thing is when you see these people that jumped in, started real estate investment in like 2012, and they're like, yeah, it's great. I'm making millions of dollars, and I'm making a killing every year, and you're like, I seen that.
Which one?
Like your friend Ryan. He started in 2012. If anyone had started in 2012, they would have made a killing.
Right. Well, he started in 2016, actually.
I thought he started earlier than that.
No, I think he didn't start flipping until 2016.
Got one of his best deals from me.
Oh, Pineda?
Mm.
Oh, we can talk about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, he's bought deals from me too.
It's okay. It was one of those IRS type of tax lien ones, and I'm like, my attorney's like, don't do it. You just don't want to do this. The IRS tax liens are more in the house. So he's like, and Ryan's like, oh, they took the risk, and I got advised against it.
How did he do on that one?
He made a killing. I guarantee he made $200,000, and you're like, fucking A.
So now you're probably less risky, right? You identify risk that you can take on, not silly risks like losing money on properties every month.
I haven't lost money on a property for
a long time.
years and years.
So you just mentioned that my friend Ryan, and you're referring to Ryan Pineda. I'm assuming he bought one of your properties that you passed on, and I know you probably followed that one home.
Yeah, it was one of these, had a tax lien on it. The guy was difficult to work with. One of these ladies I know that.
Do you remember the address?
I know it was in Henderson, nice house with a pool and whatnot. And the risk, I talked to my attorney. Of course, when you talk to your attorney, they always say, don't do it. Right,
100%. I would have taken that deal. I love it.
And it had a big tax lien on it. And I'm like, geez, it was great equity in it, but then the tax lien made it difficult. So basically, I ended up softening the guy up. And then I decided, hey, this tax situation with the IRS makes it, I either need to get it for less or get out. And I said, I just got to get out. And we, my investor lady, I said, you can go, shop it over to some other investors, and she took it to Ryan and they ended up grabbing it up. He probably made I know he made at least 100, probably closer to 2, depend on how long he kept it. But
with the risk, there's reward.
That's right. He was willing to take the risk, and I was like, hey, it's not, IRS liens, kind of scare people away, including myself in this situation.
Well, and also, like you mentioned before, Ryan hasn't really seen bad times, right?
Nope.
And when it's different when you've seen bad times. Like you and I are conservative because we've
been eaten up alive.
Yeah, when you see bad times, let's talk about when I first started, the first house I bought was a condo. I bought it as a live-in, my first property. I rented it out for a $100 loss a month. And then I moved into another live-in flip, which I ended up house hacking that, what I just called at the time, which was just renting out the rooms, right? And so I moved into that one. I actually did a live-in flip, and that one actually worked out good. And then I bought 2 in Vegas on speculation. And my mentor at the time, and if you guys haven't checked out my video with my mentor, make sure you check it out. It's on YouTube. But my mentor at the time, he's telling me, he's like, Troy, you're buying real estate on speculation. You don't want to do that. And I'm like, the market's going up, man. What don't you understand? The market is going up and I cannot lose. And so I ended up buying one house from Vegas because the realtor who ended up being my broker down the road, Ito, told me, who sold me the houses, was like, yeah, he was buying the same way because he wasn't educated on the cash flow situation at that point in time. He was a brand new agent and he was saying, hey, the properties are going up in value. Everybody knows that here. Who cares if you lose a couple $1,000?
There you go.
Because you're going to make it up on the spec. And that's what everybody thought. And then what happened was I'm driving around in the same probably situation that you're feeling, where I'm like completely broke. I've moved myself down to Las Vegas. I quit my $215,000 a year job that I made in commission sales. And I moved down to Las Vegas. I get my real estate license. I'm living on my cousin's couch in Henderson. And I literally am losing $2,500 a month on two houses that I'm not even living in, okay? And I'm renting a couch from my cousin. And so I'm going, at that point in time, I realized two things. Number one, I need to quit drinking because I was drinking a lot at that point. And number two, that I need to start listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad again. And I start listening to Rich Dad Poor Dad again, and it goes, how many houses can you afford to buy that put $100 in your pocket every month? And he's like, as many as possible. How many houses can you afford to buy that you lose $100 a month every month? And I'm like, and he's like, not very many. And I realized, I'm like, wow. And then the funny thing is, as you know, I'm selling REOs. One of the first properties I got is in the subdivision of one of the properties I had bought. And I paid $310,000 for that property. This was very early on. This is like 2008. And that property, I get a BPO, same model match. Comes in at $270. We sell it for $270. I paid $310. I'm already down $40,000. That was just the beginning of the end. That property ended up going down to about $120,000. Now it's worth probably $450,000. I sold it a couple years ago for $245,000 because I wanted to get rid of that one because it was a bad situation. But the whole point of it is that the market did recover over time.
It did.
Also, that I believe that starting and failing versus not starting at all is way better.
Of course. You have to, you have to get the mindset that I can do anything. Everything you touch isn't always going to turn to gold.
Right.
I used to think that. My didn't stink. Everything I touched turns to gold. I'm a multimillionaire by the time I was 27. I thought, hey, good thing I didn't go to law school. Good thing I got plenty of degrees. I studied Chinese and business, but I think I made the smarter move going into real estate instead of law school and other ways.
Now, when you look at your colleagues, like from the people that you went to law school with, the people that you grew up, where did you grow up? California?
I grew up in Palos Verdes, California.
So Orange County?
No, it's L.A. My dad is a district attorney out there. So.
And you're Armenian?
I'm Armenian.
A lot of Armenians in California.
Not where I lived. The only ones we knew were my brothers. So.
Kirk Kerkorian's one of my favorite Armenians.
Yeah, my aunt knew him pretty well. So.
Yeah, if you guys haven't checked out the book, The Gambler, it's a must read. I've probably read the book 50, 60 times. He's one of the guys who built Las Vegas. And
he was a risk taker.
Big time. That's why the book is titled The Gambler. Yeah, big time risk taker, parlayed one and had plenty of losses and plenty of victories, but you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes. So where do you see yourself in the next 10 years? Where do you want to be ideally?
I like working, I don't need to be working 40 or 50 hours a week. I'm happy to work 20 hours a week and spend quality family time now. I mean, I do. I'm happy doing that, but I see myself, I like doing flips. I like these commercial flips have been when you make millions and millions of dollars in 6 months on one commercial real estate deal, then you say, hey, I don't need to do that many a year. I could just do one a year if I find the right properties. I had stuff I didn't have the money. I should have brought other people in. Just I saw the right opportunities, and I still, 2 days later was under contract. It was this 6.5 acres down off Lake Mead off of
I
Lake
looked at
Mead
that
on the
one
50.
too.
That was a deal.
Yeah, you're talking about the old warehouse.
Yep, 80,000 square foot of warehouse.
$5 million.
No, 2.9
Oh, no,
it was
2.9.
listed at. So it got under contract for 2.7 cash.
Yeah, so I was
industrial land.
Hold on, I was gonna buy that too. I know exactly. I went and looked at that whole property. That was listed by Michael, Trish Nash's husband, and it was great. But you also got to keep in mind that the only reason that was great is because yes, you know it's industrial and that is a high usage of land, but there was really nothing that you could use besides warehouse space in that place, and it was set off of the street Lake Mead, pretty far deep back, so there's no frontage, there's no area of frontage. And the only thing it had going for it was the fact that it was large and the fact that it was zoned industrial.
And it had a railroad stub.
It did. It did have that. But, honestly, I'm with you. When I looked at that deal and I'm like, okay, you're not going to be able to get financing for it. You already know that because it's pretty much empty. No bank's going to finance you for it unless it's your SBA.
Yep. And if you already got one, it's hard to get your second.
So. Right. So I looked at that deal too and I'm like, man, it's a great deal, but it's not a great deal for me right now. And sometimes you just got to pass on great deals.
It took me a week to think who would be. You look at the end game prior to getting in. You have to figure out the end game for what you do with it. So it took me too long, and someone else got it under contract. But I said, hey, one of my buddies owns a recycling company. He's, having a railroad stub, you can be offloading. I could use it for my own business. Lots more storage.
Yeah, there's no question. Like that was like if I had my towing business still, that would have been a perfect location for a towing business, right? And it meets the heavy usage, and I know that I could have flipped it and made a couple $1,000,000 down the road because I already did something similar with the towing business. But when I looked at the location, I thought, man, the location, just how far it's set back, that particular property. And in fact, we'll make sure we edit that video because we actually shot it. We've never even published it. We shot that video. I looked at that property and I thought, I don't have enough time and energy to devote to, even though I know this is a fantastic deal. Like I know that this deal's worth $6 million, just the same way you do. And I'm like, I know this deal's worth $6 million, but it's going to take me a lot of time. It's going to take me a lot of money. I'm not here full time right now.
But you're competing against cash people too.
And I'm competing against cash people. And secondly, like, could I go make more money in an easier deal without all the aggravation of the asbestos and all the requirements that Nevada is going to require for those old
1960 industrial building in Pepcon or whatever.
Right.
That's the problem. Yeah.
Right. So I just felt like, you know what? I'm going to say no to this deal. I'm not going to go even make an offer on it, but it was hard to get it out of my mind too, because when you see a good deal and you know it's a good deal, you want to buy it. And you're like, so that's funny that we run into each other a lot of those types of deals.
Hey,
the hotel in Henderson, you remember that one?
Oh yeah. There was a bunch of good stuff on Water Street. Actually, about when I was looking to, buy my shopping center I started looking about 3 years ago. Every shopping center I had looked at, they're doing something with it. There's one on Lake Mead and Jones. They remodeled the whole thing. They're re-renting it all out.
Yeah, that one was garbage. You shouldn't have bought that one. I remember we talked about that one.
At the price now, they're worth way more money. So every commercial.
Your location's better.
Oh no, mine's better.
Your location.
Mine's better. Mine is better usage. Even the old Circuit City, we were in contract with Circuit City.
On Sahara?
Yep, I was in contract. And it was only 50,000 square foot.
Now that might have been a better location than the one you're in currently, but not because of the 10 acres. The 10 acres of the way that you can develop.
Mine's better.
Yeah, you with the 10 acres I think you have the best deal because not only do you have the square footage, and one thing that we need to cut together and do is we're going to do an ice deal on that deal. We're going to put an ice maker because how close are you to Lake Mead?
It's 10 miles away.
So we're going to build an ice maker. You and I are going to partner on it some way. I'm going to put the proposal on it together because I think that that's a good business idea. It's just like a small little business, but it will help you out because we can go to the...
I need people in the parking lot, right?
More people in the parking lot. Plus, it'll go to your cap rate if we structure it the right way, which, as you know, every dollar on the cap rate magnifies it. Like if you have a 5% cap rate, and you add $150, that's like a $36,000 improvement in value.
Yep.
So, If you have a 10% cap rate, you have an $18,000 improvement in value on that. I believe my math is right on that. That's just using an example. But my whole point is, if you understand commercial real estate and you realize that it's just moving that the cost and moving the expenses versus just flipping a house on what it's worth, and you can really push commercial properties. You want to talk about one that got away? I don't know if you know about this one. So this was the best deal, and I tried to make this one happen. So there was a shopping center on Tropicana and Maryland Parkway, and I had been looking and looking for something like this, and I found it like 2 weeks after it had been listed. And I'm not in Vegas, or I'm back and forth from Kansas City. This is like just last year.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh, I need to get this property. I'm looking at it. It's 63,000 square feet, huge parking lot, has several tenants in there. It just needs a makeover. Like literally, like the guy who managed it for like 40 years, he just let it go. He never put a dime into the property. It's all original. It was right by that Domino's right there. Domino's in the same parking lot. And you can see what's going on down on Maryland with UNLV. It's all coming this direction, right? So I bid, and I'm like, okay, it was like 2.2 million. I'm like, 3 million is the cap. Then I'm calling my guy. I'm like, we got to go higher, man. So I go up to 3.3. It ends up selling for like 3.4. And if I had talked to my partner before, the guy I was going to partner with on the money side of the things, we would have actually bought the deal because I was that sure of the thing. And I know just looking at that property, that was an $8 million, $10 million property.
Of course.
And all it needed was maybe $1 million worth of work in a couple of years, because that's what commercial property takes.
And you need to fill it up with good quality tenants that are paying more money because you remodeled it.
Right.
And there you go.
And you got a nice new facade versus that's what they're doing on those commercial centers. They lift the facade. They gave them a good new display versus the short display that they used to have in the old strip malls. You give them a better display. You raise it up. So you have a nice new display, new stucco.
Improve the signage, improve the drive-by traffic, and there you go.
There you go. You're getting new tenants in, and you're making money. And so, but even when you lose a deal like that, you go, man.
There's still good deals out there.
You're like, you know what? Even when you do lose a deal like that, like I lost another one in Kansas City the other day, and you just know that you're on to something. It just says, okay, if I lost this deal, then I was on to something. If I lost this deal, I was on to something. The next one, I got to strike faster, and I got to move quicker, and I got to have my ducks lined up, and I can't.
You got to be ready.
You got to be ready, and that means like sometimes when you're a disciplined investor, for myself, I'm speaking specifically, and I don't know about you, but I tend to always be low on cash.
Always. Because your cash isn't working if it's sitting in your bank account making 0.01%.
Well, let's not even call it that, right? Like, so, but my theory is like, well, just gobble up. But I have to slow down now and say no to the easy small deals because I'm trying to go after the big deals now. Same thing as you.
Or just make sure you have your friends lined up that, can join in with your deal and say, hey, we're going to make money together.
Well, we're going to eventually start a fund. That's what I had been working on. Or we're going to take the company public one way or another, like take all my houses, put them in a public company, and then offer them up and start investing, or a fund, one way or the other, so that we can start taking bigger and better properties and going after them so that money is not an issue. That's why I got on social media.
There you go. Big deals come to you when you're on social media.
That's true. If you got a deal, bring it on over. We'll take a look at it. And if you need financing and you need that sort of thing, then make sure you hit us up. Make sure you comment on this video. Michael, any words of wisdom before we take off?
Don't be afraid to take risks.
Don't be afraid to take risks. Don't be afraid to hit the subscribe button. Don't be afraid to give us a 5-star review. And make sure that you get a hold of Michael if you need any of his co-packing needs, or if you just have a question for him in general. I'm sure he'd be happy to answer.
Not just normal risks. Make sure they're calculated risks. Risks versus rewards. Hey, the odds of me making money are much greater than me losing money. I'm willing to take bigger risks and toss my money out there to do it.
Good words of wisdom from a guy who's been to the top, to the bottom, and now he's going back up to the top and probably not going to let it slip away this time.
That's right. Just diversify your portfolio also.
That's right. Get a pita bread company, get an ice machine business. There's plenty of businesses out there. There's so much opportunity. The number one thing is just get started and don't be afraid. Or if you're afraid, just understand that everybody is.
Of course.
Peace.